आतंकवादी गुटों का एक ही मकसद था, माइनॉरिटी है पूरे कश्मीर में, इनको चुन चुन के बारे में।
हम आपको कत्ल कर देंगे।
रात को जब हम सोते हैं तो सपनों में हम वहीं कश्मीर की गलियों में ही फिरते रहते हैं।
कौन फादर बोलेगा अपने बच्चों को कि ये लो चाकू और अपने आप को मार डालो?
I feel absolutely honored to have such a treasured national award winning talent with us, which is of course Pallavi Joshi. I met you just last year actually in London, and I was so amazed by the talent you displayed, your knowledge of the world. I mean, so thank you so much, Pallavi, for joining us on filmeshilmy.com.
It's my pleasure, Anuj. It's wonderful seeing you again, though virtually.
Absolutely. And I mean, look, a huge congratulations for the Kashmir Files Unreported. I mean, the film, I watched it last year and I thought it was an absolute masterpiece. I couldn't sleep. And I'm pretty sure the documentary on ZEE5 Global is definitely going to give me more sleepless nights. But I think for you, as creators, as storytellers, when you are dealing with such strong human interest subjects, how tough is it to actually disassociate yourself from your work and your personal life as well?
Well, I think Kashmir Files has been a great teaching ground for us now. So now this process has become easier for us. But yes, while we were still doing the film and the series, it's very difficult. Because at the end of it, we are all human beings. We are all capable of feeling the pain and anguish and despair after hearing the stories of all these people who haven't got justice after 33 years of, activism, fighting, being thrown out of their homes. So it kills you a bit, inside to realize that you are one of those many people who have never bothered to find out what the truth was. Process was painful, extremely traumatic to keep hearing those stories. But now that the film is made and now that we have put the series out on ZEE5 Global, I think somewhere now we can rest easy for having done our jobs well. Somewhere, I don't know what it is. If you believe in, we believe in rebirths and,
Yeah, I do.
New lives. So maybe if something from my past life, I must have had some connection to the community. And maybe that's why we probably became the medium for their stories to come out.
And actually thinking about your career as such as well, Pallavi, I feel like this has definitely been a very gradual step, because if you think about it, a lot of the work that you did, especially in the critically acclaimed films that you did earlier in your career, like Wo Chokri, for example, it was during the whole parallel cinema movement, and a lot of these films really addressed issues, hands-on. But through the medium of art. But I think, maybe perhaps this is a good question for Vivek, actually. But I guess for you, maybe, because you were part of the whole storytelling process, when you have archives and archives of stories, to then weave that into a narrative, which is obviously engaging, but yet also very educating, how strenuous was that whole process, would you say?
Extremely strenuous, but let me first say a big thank you. You call this a medium of art, and that's a lot. A lot of people don't understand this. They only call it a medium of entertainment, and I always tell people that it's so much more than that. This is a medium of art. It's open to interpretations. Every person has his or her own point of view. There are nuances that you can find in all the work here. So let's not just talk about nonsense, what masala movies. They're also needed, but it shouldn't be only about that. This is an art medium.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that. And this process, yes, Anuj, it's very difficult, but it also gives us liberty to weave the story as per our wishes. So what we typically do in the film industry is that when you have a little knowledge about something, you immediately roll out a script and you make a movie on that. What we do is that we go through extensive research for all our subjects. May it be Kashmir Files, which went on for almost 3 years, Kashmir Files for almost 4.5 years, And Delhi Files, our research is still going on. So when you have like a huge volume of research with you, then you have a lot of choice between what to pick and choose. And anything that you put your finger on is all proven, is all factual, so you never go wrong. So in the beginning, when we did Buddha in a traffic jam, yes, it was very difficult. But as we went on with all the other films, the research actually helps you to make a better movie. So I think now we thrive on being a little confused in the beginning, but ultimately the script really turns out amazing.
I actually read this book by Rahul Pandita. It was a book called A Moon Has Blood
A Moon
Clots.
Has Blood Clots, yeah.
I mean, and I think for me, when I read that book in particular, I think I was absolutely distraught from just reading of how just a group of humans were literally had to go through. I mean, even if we remove everything and just think of it as a human interest story, I mean, it's absolutely heart-wrenching of what happened. And I personally feel like, when it comes to those stories and those experiences, I mean, especially what happened to someone like Girija Tikku, you know, how I mean, of course it's difficult, but what would you say really helps you to really try and give you that strength? What gives you that strength at that point when you are encountering these really horrible and horrific stories?
I don't know. I don't know how we went through all that. When I heard Girija Tikku's story, there was another nurse by the name of Sarla Bhatt who met the same fate. And yet another lady called Prana Ganju, again the same thing, cut into two pieces while alive. I see, as a human being, it is extremely difficult for the stories to actually sink in. But as a woman, it's more difficult. I almost wanted to get up, run out of the room, throw up. When I heard the story for the first time, it's still very difficult for me, even to comprehend what the ladies must have gone through while. Oof,
I can
it is
imagine.
painful. It is painful, and it just it breaks my heart to finally come to realize that human beings are capable of such barbarism. I used to have great faith in humanity earlier, but after this film, I realized that we are just a bunch of barbarians. Just because we are educated and we wear good clothes now doesn't mean we are civilized people. We are still capable of such atrocities.
I know, absolutely. I think what really bugs me as well, the pet peeve that I have from society as well nowadays is why is atrocity of any kind, no matter who it is, right? No matter which religion, caste, gender, anything, it's always given a political stance. It's always given a religious stance, and I think that's something which bothers me a lot. And that's why I'm really glad that at least we saw films like Kashmir Files, to actually really kind of brings it to attention as well. But I think because obviously in the film you played in the feature film that came out last year, you obviously played a character which is almost kind of antagonistic, right? I mean, that's the sort of shade that she displays. But I think that perspective, how do you feel that has also maybe influenced or maybe had a bit of an impact on you with the way you approach the documentary as well from the other side?
See, until I didn't know about Kashmir, until I didn't know what the Kashmiri Pandits went through, I had no opinion about that state. And I mean, I feel ashamed to say this now, but I have to say this out honestly. I had no opinion. I was a fence sitter. I was confused about whether Pakistan attacked India and did Pakistan lose or India lose the battle, because both the sides seem to say that the other side lost the battle, the first battle which happened. And is Pakistan occupied Kashmir our territory, or does it legally belong to Pakistan? And today I feel so ashamed to have even thought of those questions, because none of these narratives are true. Everything has been politically motivated. every single thing that Radhika Menon says in the film is just a sinister agenda to push, the politics of Kashmir and somehow break Kashmir from India. So on politics on one side and social media now on the other, there are a lot of people who still try to push their agendas. There are a lot of genocide deniers. There are people who believe that this film is not anti-terrorism, but this is against some community, and they'll try and push different kinds of narratives. But I'm not the one to let those narratives affect me because I know what I have done. I know how honestly I have made the film, and I know how honestly I've played the character of Radhika Menon, even when I don't agree to anything that she says. But I have been, as an actor, honest to that character. And also now, Kashmir Files Unreported is again a very honest docu-series because it is what we have found out during our research. It is what has been happening to Kashmir historically, culturally, geopolitically, in every which way, for everyone to see. And it's high time that we sat up, we took cognizance of the fact that there have been infiltrations in our country who have, from across the border, who have disturbed the peace of this land for generations. And it's high time we stop taking it lying down. We have to get up and say no to terrorism.
Right. And I think also, I never realized the impact of how it is. I mean, I've heard about the Kashmiri Pandit genocide for a long, long time, but I think when I saw the film and then I spoke to a lot of my Kashmiri Pandit friends about it, it's actually terrifying how almost every family has a really sinister story and a sinister backdrop. And I didn't realize until I spoke with them. So I can imagine the impact that it's had. But I think also, if we think about it, I think your husband had tweeted this once actually, about there being an Indic renaissance now in Indian cinema, which I think is very true. And it's not just about incidents like the Kashmir Files, but even if we look at the past or recent past where there's been atrocities of kinds, I mean, whether it's Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, Scoop on Netflix, Kerala Story, Banda as well, Manoj Bajpayee's film, it's, we're almost, as Indians, we're kind of introspecting on where we've gone wrong as a society, and how it's trying to awaken. But I think with this sort of movement that's happening now, and the fact that obviously a film like Kashmir Files has grossed massive amounts of money last year, how do you think you as creators can now use this and translate that into more hard hitting but also very visually aesthetic cinema? Because I feel sometimes where we perhaps go wrong is we try to tell stories in a way which is trying to shock in the process of shock rather than actually engage the audience. And I think engagement is necessary.
Yes, you're absolutely right when you say that. And when we say that we are committed to telling stories of India, our aim is not to make people cry at the end of every movie. We have recently come up with a new movie which we are releasing next month. It talks about extreme pride. You'll walk out of the theater feeling like, that you belong to the best country in the world. And you'll walk out with a smile, with great pride for India and, her scientists, because it's a film that we've made on the making of vaccine. It's called The Vaccine War. So, yes, I mean, engaging people in Indic content doesn't necessarily mean that you tell sob stories. You can also, tell stories about, bravado. You can tell stories which are entertaining. I have nothing against entertainment. I'm all for it. I mean, it is very important to give people some hope. Unfortunately, there is no hope in Kashmir, or at least there wasn't until we made the film. But things are changing there now. So the next time somebody makes another film on Kashmir, I'll be very glad to see if it ends on a hopeful note, because there is now something to look forward to.
Yeah.
So yes, Indic Renaissance has begun, and a lot of different stories have started coming out. We have a lot of friends who are now looking at good content. And there are also a lot of young boys and girls who are getting inspired to make good films. Unfortunately, the parallel cinema movement, which had started with a bang in the early 70s, has completely died down. And I hope that with Kashmir Files, it gets revived again, and we have, a younger generation of great, talented young filmmakers who will take this movement ahead.
Mm. And if there's anything, that one thing that I think Kashmir Files did face, I mean, of course, I don't want to go into too much details about it because everyone knows anyway what happened. But again, there were so many allegations you faced about it being propaganda and all this, that, the other. But I think with the documentary now, where you are, bringing these stories to the limelight, and these are real people we're talking about, do you feel like now you feel a bit more reassured that, the whole propaganda conversation won't come up again? I mean, how prepared are you now, actually, after
Oh,
Kashmir?
you will be surprised, Anuj. Just wait and see what is going to come out now. I'm sure they'll bring out something new to try and pull us down again. The naysayers will always have something. They'll always cook up new stories. But if we keep listening to them, we lose all our focus. We lose our creativity. So it's no point listening to such people who, without any information, without watching the film, are calling it names. But I guess they have their shops to run. So if I'm helping them earn their livelihood, then so be it.
Pallavi, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but it's been such a pleasure to have you on Filme Shilmy. Thank you so much for joining me. It was such a joy to chat with you. I mean, I know the topic, of course, isn't exactly very pleasant, but, I'm so glad that, you've had the bravery to really showcase a story against such brutality, and I think it's important that people hear about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anuj. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And we'll catch up one of these days for a longer conversation.
Definitely, for sure. Pakka, bilkul. Chalo, thank you,
Bye bye.
namaste.
See
Thank you
you.
so much.
Namaste.